ever wondered why some people seem to have a gift for music? Have you ever wished that you could play by ear, sing in tune, improvise and jam? You're in the right place. Time to turn those wishes into reality. Welcome to the Musicality Podcast with your host, Christopher Sutton.
Today we're going to be talking about lead sheets. This is one of those things in music that can seem complex and intimidating when you first encounter it, but once you understand the concepts and spend a bit of time practicing, can really empower you as a musician. Lead sheets came up in our interview with Natalie Weber from Music Matters blog. She said that she was totally confused when she first saw a lead sheet, but with practice, she came to really enjoy them, and now she teaches her students how to think in terms of chords and creating their own arrangements. And our upcoming interview with Dr. Melody Payne of melodypayne.com will also be talking about how she helps her piano students make sense of lead sheets. So what is a lead sheet? A lead sheet is a simplified version of a music score, providing just the melody, lyrics, and chord names. It lets you fit a whole song onto a sheet of paper or two, and it strips away all the detail of the arrangement, leaving just the essence of the music. Being able to play the song well from just the lead sheet, possibly without even having heard it before, is an important part of being musical. We'll have a couple of examples of lead sheets in the show notes for this episode so that you can see what we're talking about. Now, you might have heard of chord charts. A chord chart is similar to a lead sheet, but actually a bit simpler. A chord chart is just the lyrics and the chord symbols. It's handy for songs you already know, but it's not enough to play a new song from scratch if you're responsible for singing or playing the melody. Lead sheets provide you with the melody too, so you have all the essentials you need to play the song. Lead sheets are often collected into a thick volume called a fake book. It's called that because it lets you fake your way through a piece you haven't learned before. The most famous jazz fake books are ironically called real books, and if you've ever seen a jazz musician with a yellow-covered binder in hand, it's probably one of the real books. If you're used to reading from detailed score notation, it can seem impressive, even mysterious, to see someone play from just a lead sheet. When you've learned the skills, though, it's easy to glance at a lead sheet and then play the melody, the chords, or the bass line on your instrument straight away. So that's what a lead sheet is. Why do they matter? Well, 50 years ago, lead sheets were only really used in jazz music. Because jazz musicians would often sit in with a group they'd never played with before, and because jazz was so heavily centered around particular standards, a jazz musician was expected to know hundreds of these tunes from memory, or be able to fake their way through them. Over the years, it became normal for jazzers to carry a fat collection of photocopied lead sheets so that if they were sitting in with a group and called on to play a standard they didn't know, they could just flick through their stack of lead sheets, find the one required, and then join in as if they'd been playing that piece for years. These days, though, you can find lead sheets for all genres, including pop and rock music, and even classical. It means you can buy just a single cheap volume of sheet music and have hundreds of tunes at your fingertips. Of course, now you can even get the equivalent digital versions to display on a tablet or glance at on your phone in the middle of a gig. Being able to play from a lead sheet is important in two major ways. The first is the obvious one. It gives you instant access to an enormous range of songs without needing to carefully learn them note by note for hours before you even perform them. This gives you much greater versatility as a performer and collaborator. Not to mention, it's just fun for your own enjoyment of exploring new music quickly. The second major benefit of learning to play from lead sheets is that it's a perfect vehicle for developing your musicality in a wide variety of ways. Learning to play a piece from full score notation requires careful sight reading and an admirable attention to detail. Playing from a lead sheet, on the other hand, requires real musicianship, an ability to look beyond the dots and understand the underlying music. It relies on you to turn a simple melody into an expressive rendition, or to take a collection of chord symbols and bring forth a full and effective musical arrangement on the fly. If you're a singer, it pushes your sight reading skills to the limit, and if you're a bass or percussion player, It truly challenges your skill in creating a suitable groove from scratch for a variety of situations. Okay, so that's why playing from a lead sheet matters. You're probably wondering at this point, how do you do it? There are two parts to learning to play from a lead sheet. Many musicians make the mistake of only focusing on the first one, but you'll get far better results if you do both together. The first part is to simply practice playing from lead sheets. Get yourself a fake book. In jazz, the real books are king. In other genres, you can search for books calling themselves a fake book, or books which say they offer lyrics, lead, and chords, or books which say they have hundreds of songs in just one volume. Then, set yourself a daily task of playing from the lead sheet. If you play a lead instrument, such as lead guitar, trumpet, or saxophone, you'll focus on playing the melody. If you play a chordal instrument, such as piano or rhythm guitar, play through the chord symbols. If you play bass, naturally you'll create a bass line based around the chords. And if you sing, well, you know what to do. Begin by trying to sight read the song straight off. Then, find a recording. You may or may not know the song already, but either way, listen to a recording and then try your performance again, imitating the style you just heard. If possible, find a different recording and try adapting your performance to reflect how that one was played. A big part of playing from a lead sheet is creating the musical style from scratch in the way you interpret the skeleton score. The important part of practicing lead sheets is to move on quickly. You aren't aiming to master each song, but rather to get better at quickly reaching a good enough version of a song that you're seeing for the first time. So tomorrow, try a new one. Do of course feel free to return to previous ones in due course. It can be fun to build up your repertoire like that, but the key thing is to just keep practicing new lead sheets. The second part of learning to play from lead sheets is what will accelerate your progress, and that is to practice the core listening skills which enable you to go from that bare-bones notation into a full and expressive musical performance. This is what we specialize in at Musical U, where we have training modules to help you learn all of those core listening skills. Again, the details will depend on your instrument, but here are a few examples to give you an idea. You might develop your relative pitch and your improvisation skills to let you interpret the melody and then play a solo. You might learn about chord progressions so that you can glance at a lead sheet and understand the chord symbols. As a singer, you might like to learn solfa so that you can easily sight read from the melody score of a lead sheet. Or whatever part you're playing, you might like to do rhythm ear training so that you understand how to interpret rhythm notation and create your own groove for the song. By working on each of these component skills that go into playing from a lead sheet, you can rapidly develop your musical instinct so that playing from a lead sheet starts to seem easy and natural. Being able to play from a lead sheet lets you easily play a song you've never heard before, or confidently join a group for a performance, even if they're playing tunes you don't know. That can be really handy, but it's actually not the biggest benefit of learning to play from lead sheets. Playing from a lead sheet truly matters because it's the perfect test bed for your musicality. Learning to play well from a lead sheet offers you the ideal opportunity to develop the inner skills of music you need to be a confident, capable, expressive musician. You'll learn to break free from note-by-note score reading and bring the music in your head out into the world. You'll learn to be versatile across different styles and genres of music. And you'll learn to be fearless when confronted with unfamiliar repertoire because you know you can spin your own great renditions practically out of nowhere. Whether or not you ever literally get handed a lead sheet and need to perform from it, learning to play from lead sheets is a superb way to develop your musicality. So grab yourself a fake book and get started.
Thank you for listening to the Musicality Podcast. This episode has ended, but your musical journey continues. Head over to musicalitypodcast.com, where you will find the links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as bonus content exclusive for podcast listeners. That's musicalitypodcast.com.
Hey there, Christopher again. Just a quick word before you take off. This podcast is brand new, and I have two things to ask you. Number one, if you're enjoying the show, please go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe to the show, and then rate and review it. This would mean a huge amount to me, and it really helps us get the show out there in front of more people, and that means helping more musicians just like you. The second thing is, I want your feedback. What do you think of the show? If there are things you love, hate, or would like to see us add, if there are guests you think we should interview, or if you have a burning question about musicality that you'd like us to answer on the show, please shoot me an email. It's hello@musicalitypodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening and for subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show. And thanks for giving your feedback to help us make the podcast the best.